Time now for the bottom line, a wrap of the business news of the day, and of course the big focus on the second South African investment conference that is finding ways to take advantage of opportunities despite all the challenges we have, slow economic growth, unemployment and poverty. The president wants to raise 1.2 trillion rand over 5 years to boost the flagging economy. Local companies have pledged 200 billion rand in investments over the next 5 years. Let's cross live now to the SABC's Arabile Gumede, who's there. Arabile, so not long ago we were looking at these companies coming up to the podium, making their pledges. So are we still at that mark of 200 billion?
Yeah, certainly the case. Good evening, Francis. Well, it is perhaps the wrap-up of the day 2, which is officially day 2, but some may say day 1, considering how massive a day today certainly was. Indeed, as you said, as much as 200 billion, if not more, really being pledged across the nation today. We hopefully will get a sentiment out of President Cyril Ramaphosa today or tomorrow as well, as to how much exactly has been pledged forth as well. Clearly, there is some sentiment to continue investing in South Africa, despite the economic woes we currently face. The gala dinner here today is perhaps bearing testament to that as things begin to get a little more jovial ahead of today's festivities. Let me perhaps touch course then with one of the corporates that have certainly been involved in trying to boost South Africa's brand and ensure that they continue to invest and play their part in growing South Africa's economy as well. Stavros Nicolaou is an executive then at Aspen, and he joins us as well as we get to have this conversation. Stavros, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. As Aspen, it must be really important that this conference gets off not just without a hitch, but certainly that a whole host of investment really comes through for South Africa.
So look, firstly, as Aspen Pharmacare, we welcome this initiative of a presidential investment conference. We welcome it on many fronts. Firstly, we were one of the initial companies that made a pledge last year. It was a 3.4 billion rand pledge, single biggest pharmaceutical investment ever in our country. And reflecting 12 months on, it's important to be here to see how we've progressed and tracked with that investment. That investment is keeping pace with expectation of where we want it to be. The anesthetic facility, which is a 3.4 billion investment, will be completed by middle of 2020 and will then go into commercial production in early 2022. So we're on track, and certainly being here 12 months later to progress that tracking is important. I think secondly, this type of initiative by the President and his team is important for our country from the point of view of building confidence. Half of getting an investor over the line is whether they're confident or not in the country. Now, obviously, we have many challenges and we've had a challenging decade, but I think we are starting to see some green shoots, and it's important, I think, that we come to these type of investment conferences and hear from the President the upside and where the downside is as well. So on the downside front, we need to obviously tackle some of the regulatory obstacles. And I think the President and his team are engaged in those, but certainly we'd like to see a quicker pace of reform and also some of the regulatory obstacles being addressed. That's on the areas that need to be addressed, but as I said, many green shoots that we're starting to see. I think we are turning the corner.
Are you happy though, day 1, seemingly, as you said a little bit earlier, a whole host of people getting involved in trying to build and boost South Africa as an economy? You're seeing a whole lot of other companies, a whole lot of other nationals get involved, certainly. Has that sent a message that indeed we are confident in where South Africa sits and the growth path is perhaps going to move forward?
Look, two things breed confidence. I think the one is your actions, and then number 2 is delivery. Okay. And I think insofar as, if I compare the two conferences last year to this year, in my opinion, has been a step up. There's more substance. It's been discussed. And I think more of a commitment to start tackling some of the issues, not all of them. Some of them have come through at this conference. Some of those issues that are turning investors away from our country or making them nervous. I think we're starting to see some of those areas being addressed, and that's certainly for me encouraging. I mean, obviously if South Africa succeeds and Aspen succeeds and vice versa. So we're encouraged by what we've seen, but we also recognize that there are regulatory disenablers, if I can call them that need to be addressed.
In taking care then of perhaps future progress, one thing that South Africa has needed to do, as you mentioned, was everything from regulatory issues right through to reforms and those that were necessary to push South Africa in a totally different direction. Are you getting the kind of commitment from government as a corporate that indeed they are trying to turn the wheel, they are trying to turn the corner and ensure that the phases that we've gone through are not going to stifle South Africa any further and we will be able to move forward?
So I think probably the best way to respond to is to illustrate a committee or forum that the President has set up. So the first Monday of every month, the Presidential Working Committee meets. That is a committee that consists of business, government, labour and civil society. The committee is chaired by the President, and on each occasion that we meet, each first Monday of the month, there are 2 or 3 disenablers or other investment concerns that are placed on the agenda. And I think that is a good way of getting everyone's inputs and buy-in and trying to resolve things from a vantage point of common purpose. And I think that's what's been sort of lacking in the last 10 years, amongst many other things, of course. But one of the fundamental things that were missing was there was a trust deficit between business and government. There wasn't that common purpose. And I think with this administration, the Ramaphosa administration, I think we're starting to see the turning of a corner. So a good start, but I think much more to be done yet.
So still keeping the faith then in SA and certainly expecting a whole lot more from the country?
Well, definitely a 3.4 billion rand investment. As I said, the single biggest investment ever that Aspen made, and also the single biggest investment it made in this country. It's also the single biggest investment in the pharmaceutical sector ever. So I think that's a vote of confidence in the country, and we look forward to executing on it. And I think more importantly, to making sterile products. That's what this investment is about. It positions Aspen as a true global steriles player with a steriles platform. It's also going to derive economic value for the country and also provide anesthetic and other sterile solutions, both here and abroad.
Stavros, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, as you can get, the sentiment then from business, of course, is that continue investing. It is the one place that you can certainly still get the bang for your buck. Yes, things are certainly difficult. Things are certainly tough. The economy is a whole lot harder than it has been for some time. And over the past decade, things have continued to weaken for South Africa's economy. But there are still green shoots. There are still those elements that can be boosted. But that doesn't mean that everybody should just rest on their laurels. This certainly means that the investment picture needs to change, that reforms need to be put in place to ensure that South Africa changes its growth trajectory and its growth path. That was perhaps day 2 then of the South African Investment Conference 2019, Francis, and it certainly has been a very, very busy one, and we'll hopefully get more word from my colleague Diabo Seto tomorrow as they head off to the University of Johannesburg in Soweto as well to catch up with not only the President Cyril Ramaphosa, hopefully, but even our own captain of the Springbok team, Siya Kolisi, of course, as he continues his tour with that winning Rugby World Cup trophy. It's back to you, though, in studio for now.
Thanks, Arabile. That'll be lovely. Maybe that shiny trophy will attract a few more investment dollars or a few billion more, which is what we need. Thank you very much. Live from the Sandton Convention Centre.